Hello everyone, Ichibu here again. Please do not forget to go down there, subscribe to this channel. Is Ichibu, it's my outbox. E is for Eugene and Chibu is my last name. Chibu. Please subscribe, like, and as we move on with the discourse, I'm hoping that you would also engage and turn my monologue into a dialogue or a conversation by putting down your ideas in the comments section. Forgive me, I think for some reason, because of what I want to talk about, or what this episode is all about, I might be forgetting many things. But this is just because it's a topic that comes with several feelings. Studentship. Studentship, that is being a student. In this episode, I talk about surviving studentship. Now, I would like to start by saying that one of the greatest things that will happen to any academic is being a student. Because being a student is what lays the foundation for learning. That's what lays the foundation for your future, for the prospects. It also what lays the foundation for the reality of today, as well as the prospects of tomorrow. This particular episode is dedicated to students everywhere, especially at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. That's the institution where I am at the moment, and students in other places. It's dedicated to my mentees, most who are either students or normal students. It's also dedicated to my mentors, my teachers, whom I've passed through in my period of being a student. So, why surviving studentship? I want to say one thing before I delve into the topic. I am still a student. As a lecturer in the university, I still consider myself a student. I'm just not a student of the university where I am. I'm employed here as a lecturer. But I'm a student of my society. Because the society is a system of learning. And I have to navigate the society where I find myself through all the time. And each time I learn. So studentship is something that I haven't completely detached myself from, and I do not think I would ever detach myself from it. However, we're talking about being a student here in the university. How did I survive it? Why do I even talk about surviving it? Well, that's because studentship comes with some challenges. Students, encounter many things in their quest to want to pass through this process of learning to become somebody, to become something, or to enthrone themselves on a different pedestal where others can learn from them academically. Remember, everything I'm talking about here is within the context of academia. So as a student, it's actually difficult to talk about my student experience in universities without going back to my primary school experience or kindergarten experience. But don't get it wrong, not everyone attended a kindergarten. My experience in kindergarten was an integrated system where I was in primary school, doing kindergarten, while my teacher thought I was there for primary school. So when you hear that I failed many times in primary school, looking back and doing the analysis, and of course speaking to those who took care of me during this period, my mother, my brother, my sisters, my father during the time he was alive, he's no more. I grew up in a village of Uturu. We call it the citadel of learning today in Nigeria, because we got universities, we've got everything from kindergarten to universities, even more than one university, both private and state. But as at the time I was born, it wasn't always like that. So there were no kindergartens. In fact, the kindergarten was the space in which you play with other kids in the neighborhood. That was the kindergarten. We play around when every other person the school kids go to school in the morning. The parents go to the farm. Those parents who do not have anyone to stay with their kids at home simply leave their kids with neighbors who are around, and all kids will play together. That was kindergarten. Looking back, that was kindergarten, because the last time I checked, my kids in the kindergarten were doing nothing other than sitting around and having somebody dance and then making fun and singing. That was exactly what we did. But it was not an institutionalized kindergarten in that sense of today. Now we have plenty of that in my place, but we didn't have that. So, because I was the last born in a family of 8, and everyone of course had to go to school, Mama had to also go to the farm or go to her work and do her trade. I was already in primary school by the age of 2. What do you call that? I understand then if you're able to pass your hand across your head and then it touches your other ear, that was the benchmark and the basis for determining whether you were already matured enough to go to school. For God's sake, what sort of system is this, you wonder? Because some kids have elastic hands. In my case, no. My mother, my sisters needed me to be in school because they had to go to school. My mother had to go to work, and if no one did that, they had to stay at home, except when the neighbor was ready to take care of me. And so I started primary school. So at the time I should have been in kindergarten, because there was no formal kindergarten. So I failed and rolled around. And look, let me just tell you one thing for sure. And I say this to everyone. If your child cannot follow rules, does not even understand that rules exist, they shouldn't be in school. Because for you to survive in school, for you to be called a brilliant kid and all that, you need to know the rules. I had no clue of what rules were. During break period, all I understood was I'm waiting for the period when we are allowed to go outside the class. Sometimes I just stand up and walk out. My teacher will just pull me back and say, "You sit down there." So the moment I hear that bell, bang, 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 and we go out, we play, we chase grasshoppers in the field, and all that. I remember my teacher looking for me in the bush, because I'm chasing grasshoppers and the grasshopper is humping into the bush. I'm chasing it and going, and I didn't know that break time was over. And my teacher had to come and pull me back, looking for me in the bush. And this teacher came to my house one time to tell my mother that I'm not your nanny, I'm supposed to be your teacher. And so that was my experience. But then the moment I learned how to, follow rules, things changed. Now, I'm not trying to say that I follow rules a lot or I'm the best at doing that, but at the moment I learned that, and it was quite later in school, around primary 5, but the moment I understood that if they put the rules out there and you follow the rules, you become the teacher's best student and you're considered to be brilliant and all that. I started doing that and things changed. Primary school experience. Secondary school. In secondary school, I had already learned how to follow rules. So it was difficult for anyone to consider me not to be a good student. And because I could follow rules, I was the class rep many times. In fact, when I stopped being the class rep, it was because I chose I didn't want it anymore. Because class rep then restricted me from excising the freedom other students would exercise, like make noise in class for God's sake. You know, you just feel like yelling and the teacher is not there, you want to yell. But if I was the class rep and they report to the teacher that when he or she was not around, they were making noise, would come to me and say, why weren't you writing names of noisemakers? So around later part of my secondary school, I dumped the idea of being a leader in class because I needed to feel more ordinary. Why do I have to say all of this? All the reason is just I wanted to show you that following rules matter. When they say you're an intelligent, brilliant student, it's because you are following rules first and foremost, and then your productivity. The moment you're not following rules, but even if you're passing your courses, you're passing your subjects very well, or the teacher will still say it's a very stubborn child. So, I learned my hard lesson. By the time I got into the university, I didn't like rules anymore. I also learned my lesson. But the experience in the university was such that first I thought that you just needed to follow rules. And then subjects that I believe I was supposed to get an A, I end up getting a C. And the ones I thought I would get a C, I actually failed them. And I realized that it isn't just about following the rules of the university, it's also following the rules of the lecturer. Because it appeared that the power dynamics in the university tilted very much more on the side of the lecturer, which is why today, for instance, the Namibia University of Science and Technology, from where I'm speaking to you at this moment, speaks more about the university becoming or strongly embedding its practice around making it a more student-centric institution, where the mainstay of the ideology is centered around ensuring that the environment is conducive for students, first and foremost, for their learning than others. Think about it, students live in school all the time. The lecturers come and go. So the condition, whether it is the social condition, whether it is the general environmental condition, of course the economic condition has to be such that students are able to navigate it. And so, I wouldn't clearly say that mine was a very student-centric institution. But one thing that I learned is that studentship is about your ability to follow rules and your ability to navigate the power dynamics around you in the university. These power dynamics can be negotiated. I've noticed that students who have failed too many times in the university or have stayed too long in university, in my experience, tend to understand the need to negotiate this power dynamic, unlike the ones that come fresh from secondary school. And so, what does it mean to be a student? To be a student, you first and foremost need to understand that you're a learner. You also need to understand that there are too many rules around you that you have to navigate. And to navigate these rules, you need intelligence. Did I say intelligence? Common sense. Common sense. Common sense. What is that? Common sense is the ability for you to see things the way they ought to be seen, hear them the way they ought to be heard, and smell them the way they ought to be smelled, even feel them the way they ought to be felt, and not the way you want it, the way you prefer it, the way someone told you it should be. So if you apply common sense as a student, and now I don't want to go deep into my experience, because what I'm giving you basically is a synthesized message from my experience. If you apply common sense, not necessarily brilliance, but just common sense is enough for you to succeed in school. First and foremost is for you to understand the need to pass through school and let the school pass through you. This is a maxim that I heard too many times when I was in my undergraduate at the Abia University, Abia State University in Uturu, Nigeria. My best lecturers always would say, pass through school and let the school pass through you. That means try to mingle. The idea of isolating yourself in class, isolating yourself in social circles, isolating yourself whenever you want to, doesn't work, because it is called a university because it's supposed to prepare you for the universe in which you're already living, and of which you're gonna have to face the challenges that it comes with after graduation. Some people are lucky that they already faced those challenges while they were in the university. You know, the challenges of being in the university and having a baby. Oh, I'm not saying go and have babies. What I'm saying is, these are things you face: marriage, you face partnerships, you face dating, you face, things that are natural occurrences in life, but that come with blessings and disappointments. And I'm putting it that way because I just don't want to just spread the blessings, because many a times if you meet an average guy and an average lady out there who's a graduate, they're either complaining they don't have a job, or they're complaining they have a job but their relationship situation is more a situation than a relationship, or they do not have any of these, or they don't even know, or they are confused. Confusion, that's another dimension to it. So what I'm saying is, if you're in the university, you must ensure that while you learn in school, you engage in other social activities that matter that happen around you, because these are the things you face afterwards. For instance, you're gonna have to dress properly, learn proper dressing, because when you leave school, you just can't wear white socks over sandals or slippers and walk all over the place. This is a fact. It's not a dig. When you go for interviews, people expect you to know the code of dressing. People expect you to know, if you're a guy, how to knot tie. If you're a lady, you should know color combination. If you don't know it and you're walking in a riot, except it's not a lady sitting on the other side. If it's a lady sitting on the other side, they already weigh you down. These are vanity, or what I would say are vain things, but they matter. Because appearance would matter first before they start even bothering of getting into the head to start asking about subject matters and more mental communication. So studentship is everything. It means that you have to engage in anything you have to engage in within the ambit of the rules of the university. If you don't, you might become a reckless, brilliant person, but not a social being. But to survive in the life, in the world we live in the society we live in, you need to be both a biological and social being. You need to have analytical intelligence. And you can only get this through critical thinking. And many of these you do not learn in class. You learn subject-based issues in class. In Nigeria, I had to learn citizenship education in my undergraduates, just coming into the university. But one of the most important courses we were taught were philosophy and logic and philosophy of science. And I realized that these courses, which I only did them in my first year, set the basis for my thought pattern, my critical thinking and analytical pattern, at least at that point. And obviously, you begin to apply them in everyday life. Now, if you do not learn this in school or no one stood in front of you to teach you these things, it's still important that you have to read. So my message to everyone here is to navigate studentship, because studentship itself is a bomb. A lot can happen during that period. I have seen or read about a student committee, about lecturers treating students badly. All over Europe, I see that in the newspapers, accusations. In African countries, you get them. And students feeling disenchanted, demotivated to do the very thing for which, in most cases, they have to pay universities to do, to be admitted and to pass through a process of learning. I have also read and seen students who were so brilliant that all they knew was the classroom. They didn't know any other thing. These are the ones that passed through school and never allowed school to pass through them. And afterwards, they get into the market and they struggle with socializing, they struggle with mingling, they struggle with collaborating. The university should be an environment where students can feel safe. And for students to feel safe, lecturers need to understand students and students need to understand the lecturers. When you have this in equilibrium, that's what it means to survive studentship. And to do this, you need to grab that knowledge. And that knowledge doesn't come to you, you have to go for it. So with that said, I didn't mean that you have to survive studentship because studentship is a terrible thing. In fact, many people that graduated, those that had a very beautiful experience as students would, even after graduation, sometimes feel like, oh, when I was a student, I wish I was a student. And of course, those that life begin to treat a lot great would sometimes want to forget about their studentship. But you have to navigate it and you have to survive it, because it's like an ocean from which you, the student, is like a fish swimming through that ocean. The waves can carry you along, or the waves can even keep you swirling just on one spot while others have been pushed sail to other regions and heights in life. So I wish you the best and I hope you can survive studentship like I survived it. But now it's not over. I'm trying to survive the studentship of the society. Thank you everyone, and please knock down there, subscribe. Oh, I forgot. Please, when you subscribe, also remember to share. Thank you, and I hope to see you again some other day. Bye.